Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt here with Daniel Mangana. Today is Thursday, June the 25th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And Daniel, I am still feeling the vibe from Tuesday. I don't know about you. I am still feeling, it's like this recurrent, I can't call it a nightmare because it's not that kind of a thing. It's recurrent, wonderful daydream.
It's great, right?
Yeah. And all I have to do is think about it. And I've always wanted to have things, and I do have things like this where I can just kind of think about it and just lifts my vibe really quickly. And now that's one of them. I just think about that conversation. And do you remember when the stream first came on halfway through that show and you commented afterward that you could feel a vibration lift happening? Mm-hmm. That's what I remember.
It's palpable. I mean, I've done a couple of the summits that David's hosted in his group on Facebook, where a few of us, it's mainly his ex-students. I get like a cheeky pass, I guess, to kind of slip in with like the ex-students, like, oh,
hey, it's good to be on the inside.
Inside track. We get to ask questions at the stream, and it's just really, really groovy. And like I said, there's been a couple of times when, because I don't really consume as much content on social media. People think that I'm on social media all the time, but
you have a rap.
Content versus like watching it. But every now and then I kind of hop on to do something, and it's just like, oh, David Strickel was live. Oh, yeah. Have a look. Sometimes even just having it on in the background, and it's really good stuff. There are two channels that I really get down with. It's David and Paul Selick. Those two.
Okay.
And for me, David's like that happy medium between like balls busting, shut up and get it done guides, and yay of Abraham, and in the middle is yay, no, get it done. That's just like
yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, you kind of have to have both. That balance is important.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
And of course, the great news is that David's coming back on Friday.
He's coming back on Friday.
Coming back Friday, tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I hope I'm free.
And Linda is devastated because Linda can't be there tomorrow. It's going to be Rita and me with David. And Linda was saying, when's he coming back after that? And I get it. I know where she's coming from. I mean,
the coaching call tomorrow.
I told Louise about it after the show because she didn't know. I mean, I didn't really realize what was happening until he got there. So I couldn't give her any advance notice about it. And I told her it was like being a kid in the candy store. It's like, oh my God.
You were so excited.
What do I try next?
You were so excited. I was just like, I'm just going to sit here and let Walt get on with it. Yeah, I still remember the first time that when Matt first introduced me, and I saw the stuff. I was like, oh, okay, this looks, check him out. I read the book, real person, and I had the chance to chat to him. I was like, this is just a real guy.
He is.
Living a real life that happens to access infinite intelligence and share it. And I get to call him friend. That's pretty darn cool.
It is. It really is.
Like I said, I had something going on the other day, and it's so funny. I was literally just working through it. I was journaling it out to work out what microshifts I was going to tackle on this situation. And then he reached out to me about something else. I was like, so yeah, I've got this thing going on. And the cool thing is he didn't even need to tap into the stream. He's like, well, the stream would say this, the stream would say that. Do you want to ask the stream? I'm like, do you know what? That stream wisdom is just what I needed. And it just gave me that little, okay, went back to my journal. Okay, we're going to do this, make this tweak. And things have been on that particular situation, gone.
Nice.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. And I'm looking forward to having more conversations with him. I don't know if you saw, I actually put it into the three-way chat we had going on Facebook. I put in there, I want you back every week. I don't think I can actually get that, but I want it every week. So I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah, I saw that one. I don't think he saw it yet. So I was like, did you see that message from him?
Well, he responded to that chat by saying awesome and shared that information about the question that I raised.
Yeah, so that's when I messaged him. Did you see that?
Oh, okay.
They went back and responded to it. I was just like, oh, this is amazing. I was like, I just want you back every week. Please come. It was just so...
And you know me, I don't say that to guests.
He's cool.
I just never say that to anybody, but I woke up that morning thinking to myself, if I don't ask, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So I just got to ask anyway, you know?
Go ask. You've got to ask. Really important to ask.
And he said he loved it. He loved the questions that we asked. I mean, it was great. It was really good. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show. In the meantime, let's maintain the vibe and talk about something kind of like, along the same line of what you were just talking about there. Because I saw a post on Facebook. Somebody had shared this thing. I'm not sure if I can find it again, but they had shared this thing that was basically somebody mocking the whole LOA thing, and specifically mocking positivity. Mm-hmm. And the gist of the message, and I can't find it, so I'm not sure what specifically they said in it, but the gist of it was people who are always trying to stay positive are missing the bigger picture of how terrible the world is. And look at all these good vibe folks. They're totally useless now when all the crap is hitting the fan. That was essentially what the message said. So I figured, well, that'll give us a little bit of something to talk about.
Yeah, I do get it. I mean, I preach this all the time. The woo-woo can be a bit useless unless it's got something behind it. And this is my work with alignment. It comes in like, take the woo-woo and direct it to live a kick-ass life. And I had it in my group call yesterday. One of the women that's in my program, she was like, I've just reached a place where I think I just want to, like, people are just getting in the way. I just want to just put myself away and just keep getting my downloads from the divine. I was like, okay, that's cool. But a bit useless, isn't it?
Well, I guess it depends what use you need. I mean, because I do know when you're in the middle of crap, especially if it's more personal. I mean, right now there's a lot of global stuff going on, but especially when it's the more personal stuff, you sometimes just need a break. You gotta get away from it.
But there's a difference between taking a break and running away.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's a fine balance. I mean,
very fine balance.
You can go too far either direction on that.
All I said to her was, are you here with a mission? She said, yes. With a purpose? Yes. Are you here to heal? Yes. Are you here to contribute to a shift in global consciousness? Yes. How the fudge are you going to do that hiding in a cupboard, getting downloads from the divine? Oh. And that's when it kind of clicked. Tap in and go and apply it. Right? That's we're here to have a human experience. No matter what cookbook you're reading from, we're here to have a human experience. And yes, plugging back in and getting that juice. Yes, taking a break, honoring the need to rest.
You have to.
Sometimes honoring that you're just not up to it that day. Yes, but keep plodding on and keep actually living the life that you're here to live.
And by the way, once you have gotten, at least I'll speak for myself. Once I have gotten that break, once I've basically done the reload and built the energy back up and gotten away from all the noise and the nonsense for a bit, I like to go back into the contrast. I mean, I don't go in so deep that I start screaming and yelling, but I like to go back in and kind of mess things around, stir the pot a little bit. It makes things interesting,
I think this is where we come back to the whole different dimensions and timelines and experiences and the connectivity of us all. You're never going to miss any of it out. But the zoom out, it's one of the things that the stream spoke about, zooming out, which is just such a good concept. When you zoom out, you get to see all of it. But for here, just enjoy the piece that you're engaged in right now, which may be some contrast. Maybe you don't feel like it. I personally minimize my contrast. I really do.
Yeah.
I minimize my contrast, and and when the contrast does come in, I minimize my deep bathing in it, and I step out enough to witness a contrast, experience it, and learn the lesson from contrast, and keep going. I personally don't groove with the conflicting element that sometimes shows up in contrast and blah, blah, blah. But I understand it's part of the experience. I don't run away from it. I face it down, but I do step back a little bit to do that. That's just me. I don't stir up the pot. I let the bubbles be the bubbles in the pot. That's just me. And who knows? Maybe I've done a million lifetimes where I've stirred it up. Maybe I've done a couple where it's all been contrast. I don't know. But I do know that right now this is what I feel like.
Personally, I don't think it really matters. I think it doesn't matter what you did in the past. What matters is what you're choosing to do right now anyway.
That's
And
it.
besides that, even if you are taking a break, even if you're hiding in the closet, maybe you need to hide in the closet for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What will, I think, ultimately happen is if you hang out in the closet long enough, it gets kind of boring in the closet. After a while, it's like, okay, well, here we are, another day in the closet,
Yeah.
and you start to kind of get a little bit itchy. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's the time to go out. If you're, on the other hand, if you're out and you're dipping in the contrast and you find that it's over your head, that's probably a good time to climb out. Go back to the
Mm-hmm.
closet for a bit,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, and the other thing too, from my perspective is I never try to take my cues about how deep or how shallow to go from somebody else. And I don't think you do either. Because you can't. How can you possibly make decisions about what's good for you based on what somebody else is doing?
I think in some respects, part and parcel of the pain that people experience is making those decisions based on what other people have and places and things have dictated.
Yes.
And when I was first started coaching, I was coaching people around midlife crisis and that kind of life situation. And pretty much every single one of them, it's that they got to a point where they had to stop living life on other people's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like living life on other people's terms just brought them to a place where they had the meltdown, they had the depression, they had the new addiction, they decided to go off and cheat on their husband or their wife because they just needed to break free from the box that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
Versus flying through life and saying, okay, this is for me, this is not for me, this is for me, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Just a much more empowered space to be in.
I like the way you phrase that too. I mean, I usually say it in terms of I prefer this, I don't prefer that. But no matter which way you say it, the main thing is I try to avoid saying it's positive or negative. Because that whole positive trip, there's a trip that's associated with that. That whole positive trip is how you get sucked into trying to live by somebody else's standard.
Agreed.
And it's just, I'll talk about nightmares. That's a nightmare. I mean, I don't care how prettily it's painted. It's a nightmare whenever you've basically given your power to somebody else. So you can create all the horror stories you want. I think that one's near the top of the list. Giving away your power and letting somebody else decide for you how you're going to live your life.
No. But this again, no judgment. Maybe that's what some people need. For me, that's what I feel religion is. It's surrendering.
A lot of people do.
Surrendering your choice machine to someone else, another person, place, or thing. And sometimes it works out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out for people, right? Sometimes people happen to chance upon a person, place, or thing that just happens to have a more optimal path for them. And that's okay. For me, it's whether you choose to step into that or not. Yeah. If I consciously decide I'm going to give my power away in this part of my life to this person, place, or thing, and I'm ready to accept the outcome of that.
I heard that word.
Go and do it. And if not, don't. But the thing that makes me laugh is when people consciously or unconsciously surrender their power, consciously make the decision to rebut the fact that they've given away their power.
Yeah.
And they complain or blame others on the back of it.
Yeah, it's the ultimate victim experience at that point. And
yeah.
Yeah.
That is it's like that's ridiculous. Like,
yeah. Well, even in those cases, I mean, in every case, no matter what people are picking, even if they pick that, I mean, that's certainly not something I pick. I know you wouldn't pick it, but if somebody picks that, there's some payoff somewhere in there for them.
There's always a payoff. And like I always say, they're not failing. Nobody's failed. Nobody's failed. This just happens to be the game. It's just sometimes we're in a game that we haven't consciously chosen, but we have never, ever failed. So it's just making the choice for you. Is this the game that you want to play?
Mm-hmm.
And are you ready to take the outcomes? The repercussions is a bit of a strong word, so I'll use outcome. The outcome of your choice to either be in the driver's seat or pretend not to be in the driver's seat. It's just that's it. And if you're ready to accept that, more power to you, mate.
I like your choice of words. I tend to choose the word consequence, and that actually has a negative connotation for more people than it does for me. I mean, but I choose the word simply because if you look at the root, it means how is it following in sequence, and I like that.
Just making them more neutral. I thought outcome was a bit
I understand.
Neutral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do that with a lot of words too. I want to kind of take it to the next level though here, this conversation.
Okay.
So I
Dun,
like
dun,
it.
dun.
Ta-ta, here we go. So for me, the next level is, and I mean, you could go in any direction here, but for me, the next level is, okay, we got the stream coming in tomorrow, right? And this is like this is going to be step 2, and then there's going to be future steps. In fact, I'm projecting, this is me doing some conscious creating right now. There's going to be weekly steps going on. And in these weekly steps, we're going to have all kinds of things we get to explore with non-physical entities. Abraham type non-physical entities, although with a little bit more of a hardcore twist to it, which is good. And so I've been dreaming about, well, what kinds of conversations will I have with them? And what kinds of conversations will our listeners have? Because we're going to take listener questions, of course, and my other co-hosts and so forth. And, one of the things I want to explore, what the heck is it like in the non-physical world? I mean, okay, so how does your day go? What do you guys do all day? I mean, is it all looking at what happens here on Earth, or do you actually do other stuff? What's your day like? And I know you don't sleep, but, call it a day anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes I get lost in seeking to fathom what an experience of reality is, that fully zoomed out space. When everything's a moment and a moment is nothing, and when you've transcended the illusion of time and physical form, it must be really exciting to just come and play in the dirt.
I suspect there's a big, big draw to come here. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Matt Kahn, who I don't really groove with that much in many things, but I really smiled when it was like, everyone wants to come here. This is where everything happens.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, that's true. Everything happens.
It is. Yeah.
This is where it happens.
Abraham calls it the leading edge. It is leading edge.
Yeah. This is where all the fun is.
In the tech world, we call it the bleeding edge for good reason. There's some bleeding that goes on.
Can I just say something that's been really, really funny? And I was laughing at Olga to this. One of the things I loved about Cabo was how quiet it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before Olga moved down from New York, I had never heard a single siren. And now every day there are sirens. Do you remember when I was in New York, there was always sirens?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now there's always sirens. And it's really funny to me because there were no sirens.
I believe you.
So it's just an interesting manifestation I wanted to share.
I have to ask a secondary question along with that, right? Because you're the one who's noticing the sirens. I'm guessing she's the one who manifested them. So the question is she noticing them?
Oh, no, she's not manifesting. She doesn't care. I think it's the cognitive association between Olga and sirens.
Oh, so you're doing the manifesting. Okay.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
She didn't even notice them. I brought them to her attention.
Okay.
So I think it's just funny that I brought the energy of the sirens down.
Well, what's that all about?
What's that all about? So I'm working on just breaking that attachment.
Understood. One of the other things I want to talk with one of the other things I want to talk to the stream about is I love the idea of talking to a channeled entity like the stream, or collective entity. I mean, the Abraham type is what I think of it as. Mm-hmm. I love that. But what I would love even more, I don't want to be a channel, but I would love to be able to have that kind of conversation on the level that you can have with somebody who's channeling the stream or Abraham or something like that, but be able to do it with myself. Because honestly, when I go within, I can feel within. I can certainly feel, and I can occasionally get little flashes of messages. But, like an ongoing verbal conversation, forget it, not happening. And, having all this blocks of thought coming through, I mean, they may be there, but I haven't detected them yet. So I want to learn that. But I don't want to channel for a whole bunch of people.
Well, it's really funny. So Paul Selig's like, everyone wants to be a channel, but they don't realize you just become a dictaphone. I'm just a walking dictaphone. This isn't fun. And I'm normally really drained by the end of it. So be careful what you ask for, guys.
Yeah. and I don't want to go. I just want to be able to have the conversation. I don't want to have all that other stuff.
One of the things that David says is like, we all have our own stream. It's just tuning in and getting quiet enough to hear it.
Right.
And like he was sharing on the show, like he spent time practicing having that dialogue, learning to speak that language within himself. He didn't just wake up and hear, boom, I hear the stream coming through. That's not how it.
But it does raise the question, how do you know when you're hearing it? What's the signal? What's the clue? I mean, if we're talking about a radio station, we can pretty much detect we got a radio station because there's a little signal on our graph saying, oh, you're tuned to 97.5. You know, okay, sure, I get it. But where's the signal?
I think when you know, I think hearing the stream's like being a lady. If you have to say you are, then you're probably not.
You're no help.
No, but seriously, I think when you know, you know.
I guess so.
I mean, look, we knew, even if he hadn't said something shifted on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, palpably felt
it was very clear.
Something had shifted. Yeah. And it's the same like when I go to Paul Selig events, like there's just something that happens in the room. It just goes, It's like, oh, okay, something happened there. Like you just feel it.
Well, the same thing happens at an Abraham event too, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's interesting at an Abraham event. I suspect that as these guys do events and their audiences get larger, they'll probably have the same thing. I was a little surprised at the Abraham event. I don't know why I did, but I kind of expected a lot of the people who were there were going to be people who already knew about and understood Abraham. It was pretty clear to me most of them didn't. And so you had this real mixture of vibe going on. And then Esther comes up on the platform, and we were like in the back. We're in the like back row, right? And Esther comes on the platform and says hello, does like 2 minutes on being Esther there and says, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go do Abraham now. Gets into the Abraham place, and you could feel that vibe lift, but you didn't feel it to the same degree that we felt it on the show. And I think it's because we had 500 other people in front of us, all having different vibe levels that they were trying to raise. I mean, Abraham deliberately tries to raise that vibe. They use humor. They use a lot of things to get that vibe up.
Do you know what? This reminds me of what's been happening over the last few years with the Dr. Joe Dispenza events as well.
Really?
Yeah, because when I first started doing Dr. Joe's work, 2016, when I went to my first event.
Yeah.
That first event that I went to, it was a progressive event, so it was a 2-day event, and it wasn't pushed. The all-out, let's go into the mystical stuff. He's only been doing that the last couple of years. It was all before, like, we're going to talk about science, placebo, you're going to come, and perhaps we're going to use the tool of meditation in order to access the brainwaves and blah, blah, blah. So I went to this event thinking, I had a fallout with my ex, actually, over this, the girl I was with at the time, because I was like, I'm going to I'm doing some business training. I'm going to go and do some mindset business stuff or whatever. Came back and was like, this totally woo-woo wants to meditate at 3:00 every day and all this stuff. Like, you lied. It was spiritual. I didn't know. Like, one of our last arguments is like, and you lied about this Dr. Joe S. blah, blah, blah. It's like, I didn't. I really didn't know. But back then you had to go to a progressive in person. So there was progressives. There's 1 day or 2-day event. 2-day events, I think there were. So you had to go and do those. And then if you went to those, you couldn't. It was when you went to those that he said, we're going to be having an advanced workshop. And we get to the advanced workshop. There's maybe 500 of us there. There's empty seats, whatever. We sort of do it for 4 days. Then he started doing the week-longs and, more people. But then when they changed it so that you had to do the progressive online, he didn't do the progressives in person. You got some people that did the progressive. And then sort of came to the event, and then they did it where you didn't even have to buy the progressive first. You could, when you bought in the week long, it came with the progressive. Just make sure you do the progressive before you come.
Yeah, that'll work.
They didn't do it. So by the time I went to the last one, which was the one me and Uncle both went to in Dubai in January, 90% of the people at the event had never been to a Dr. Joe event before. And there were 1,500 people.
And that's a different vibe. That feels quite different. So
you've got 1,200 people that have not done this sort of thing before.
Yeah.
And most of them had not done their homework. So when they weren't used to the experience. So I'm used to doing 6 hours of meditation with Dr. Joe a day. Used to it. For 2 hours at a time, he's locking up, and then the Pineal, which is like a 4-hour meditation or whatever, at 4:00 in the morning. But, and some parts of the event didn't even take place because he's like, look, I can't even do this with you guys today because I just don't feel that the group's ready. So I know that difference. I've experienced it because even the energy in terms of the discombobulated mixed up energy compared to, say, Indian Wells that I went to 2017, like the difference between the two, big difference.
Yeah. And yet it's amazing how even when you have that kind of mixture of vibrations, because that's really what it is. It's kind of like it's like a symphony with no harmonics. It's just, no harmony at all. But let's play all the musical instruments at full volume, tuning. That's kind of what it's like on a vibrational level. And yet, I suspect this is going to be true for David and for Paul. Is that his name? I can't remember what the other gentleman's name
Paul
is.
Selig.
And I know it's true for Abraham. When they start doing their thing, despite that, you still get the vibration raise.
Mm-hmm.
It still permeates, and you can see it on people's faces. Not only can you feel it, you can look around the room and like everybody sits up. Everybody's just noticing there's something that's gone. They may not know what it is, but something has gone differently here.
Yeah. There's nothing. But we're energy beings operating, and this is going to sound funky. Let me simplify this. We are energy that happens to be expressing itself in a way that appears to be physical form.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Good description.
So the truth of our nature is energy, or to put it another way, the truth of our nature isn't really, it extends beyond this thing that is vibrating at a level of density that means that we can touch it like I just touched this microphone.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the spectrum of light, a small piece of it is, the 7 bits of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
The rest of it is not we're not able to perceive it at this level of consciousness, or this level of tap density.
It's not visible light, as it's called.
It's not. So there are parts of us going on that we just can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there are parts of our world going on that we just can't see. A simple plant has a level of consciousness that we just can't see. It's got a palpable energetic field that we can dance and engage with. And that's giving off and receiving and feeding and receiving. So when we go into a space where there are hundreds or even thousands of people, each with a part of themselves that they haven't even known is there. I mean, I just got my haircut today, which I'm very happy about.
It looks beautiful, by the way.
Quick segue, by the way, Mr. Walt. The funniest thing is I was better groomed during COVID than I have been since quarantine has lifted. It's so funny. That's a tangent for another time.
Okay.
But I know that I have a beard and I have hair,
mm-hmm.
and I know that it should be groomed for me. Like I desire for it to be groomed.
Sure.
Now I may desire not to be groomed. One of my friends grows his beard out. He only sort of tidies it up a little bit when he's going for weddings. Other than that, he just lets his beard grow wild, and it's really cool. And he's got his afro, and he's just like a really, really cool guy.
Like the wild man look. It's good.
But he has the opportunity to make the choice about whether to let his beard grow or not, because he acknowledges he's got his beard and can make the choice about what to do with it.
Yes.
I have a mouth with teeth and a tongue. Brushing those teeth means that I'm not emitting an odorous aroma to those around me, and that Ariana and Olga don't feel unpleasant in my company.
Right.
If I don't know that I have a mouth and I don't know to brush my teeth or have the means to brush my teeth, I'd be walking around with a stinky mouth.
True.
Many people don't understand that there's a level of them that exists beyond what they perceive physically. And they don't know to groom it, and they don't know to brush their spiritual teeth. And so they're walking around stinky and coming into a room of people and just making it really stinky. And there are those of us that know there's such a thing called toothpaste. And so we've brushed our teeth and aren't as comfortable being in a smelly room. And it's like, well, there's definitely some pong in pockets of this room. Some minty but also some pong. And that for me, that's what goes on in those rooms. Some people they're ponging, just like a unbrushed mouth. And it's not that they're doing it deliberately, and there's no judgment, right?
Sure, yeah.
There's no judgment, because like Ariana, she's 4, she's got her little mechanical toothbrush. She sees me and her mum brushing our teeth. So she's learning to brush her teeth, and she's got her little thing, and it's a whole game, and, let me smell your mouth. Oh, go and do it a little bit more, like we do a little game with her or whatever. But if she didn't have that training, then she would go through life with a smelly mouth, because there's no one telling her brushing your teeth is something that you have to do.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it.
There's also the fact that and this kind of ties in a little bit to what I was asking my question about earlier about being able to communicate directly with my inner being. That's really what I want. I want to have a more complete conversation with the other part of me, the non-physical side of me. When we develop these skills, I mean, there's a great analogy I can think of for what it's like to develop them. If you have a pet, you kind of over time get to know what that pet is all about. Like we have 2 cats. And when we first got them, well, actually they got us. They were abandoned by people across the street. They came and found us. But once they became part of our little family, you get to know them after a while. And now, well, first of all, they're 2 black cats. They're almost identical twins, but they're not. I mean, I can tell them apart. And so I know which one's which. And the thing that's astonishing to me is that to me, they're really different. Because they are. Their personalities are entirely different personalities. And if you don't let yourself be blocked by the fact that they're both black cats and just, identify them for who they are, I mean, well, put it this way. One's a completely 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week outdoor cat. The other one is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week indoor cat. And they have personalities that match that. The outdoor cat, he loves to come up and, rub up against you and say hello and so forth. But if you try to do anything to get him inside, forget it. You got claws coming out. Whereas the other one, if you don't let her in within 3 seconds of scratching at the door, she's going to have a fit. I mean, just really different personalities. And as you get to know them better and better and better, it's almost like there is I'll call it subconscious side. It's not subconscious, but there's like a sixth sense type thing. You can tell when they're hungry. You can tell when they're afraid. You can tell when love is easy with cats because they purr, but you can tell all these different emotional states really quickly just because you kind of have become attuned to them. And I kind of associate that with what you're talking about. You kind of get attuned to this stuff.
Yes.
So I guess the questions I'd be asking the stream would be, what suggestions can you make for becoming more attuned to myself?
A good one. I'd like to hear the answer to that one.
I would too, yeah. And I'm going to ask it tomorrow, so tune in.
I've got a coaching call at the time, so I have to watch the replay.
Well, that's right. You can listen to the replay. That's fine. But yeah, and that's the kind of thing I think would be fascinating to have the conversation with him about. Now, there's another aspect to this, and this is something that Esther, I don't think, has ever really been able to describe, Esther Hicks. And I'm not sure David would be able to describe it or not. He might be able to. I don't know. But over time, just like I have been able to get used to and get to know my cats, I suspect you get to know your non-physical spirit guides on the other side. You get to know what they're like, what their personalities are.
Paul Selig's spoken about that.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, he's spoken about that. There's, I think he's claircognizant. He's clair audio, so he hears.
Okay.
And he said, there's different tonality to the voice that he's hearing, that he's dictating through the channeling process. And it's different aspects of that non-physical entity that come through in order to express. It's really interesting.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. I mean, you probably get you probably can actually start distinguishing between the members of the group and know who's here on one day and who's not, and all that kind of stuff. I also want to ask, I want to ask some really strange questions. That's going to be a balance for me because I know I want to ask questions that our listeners want to hear, right? And I'll be wanting to get the live stream participant and people sending in emails and so forth as we do more and more of these shows. So I want to make sure that I do those. But there's a piece of me that's also going to want to ask the wacky questions. And these are among the wacky questions. What's it like on the other side? What do you have for lunch? Like, if you are high vibe, how do you know what it feels like to feel low vibe if you're high vibe all the time? I mean, that's what I understand non-physical is.
But knowing all things. I mean, high vibe, low vibe is polarity. And polarity assumes separation. But when you're closer to singularity, then from a zoom out, you see the whole thing. And it all just is. Sure.
I guess my question is, if you're in the non-physical realm, you're zoomed out all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're zoomed out all the time,
that's the physical experience that we have.
So if you're zoomed out all the time, you basically have to go on some equivalent of memory, which I imagine is much more high tech than what we have here. but something that you're basically remembering what it's like rather than experiencing, because you're not experiencing the low vibe directly. You're only experiencing the high vibe when you're at that faraway place.
But then that assumes that time's real because you look into the past. You just know.
Well, I'm not even thinking in terms of time. I'm thinking more in terms of if you're in high vibe, you're not experiencing low vibe.
But you're experiencing everything all the time because time isn't real. You just now.
So if you're in high vibe without time, you are also experiencing all the other vibrations simultaneously.
Because the separation between vibrations only happens at the point of separation.
Interesting
And 5D is
possibility.
being above the barrier of time or beyond the barrier of time. So there is no separation that would create the framework within which you would have to remember anything because you just know everything.
The thing is, I guess I'm limited by the physicality of what we understand vibration to be, because we think of something that's vibrating, physically vibrating.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's physically vibrating, it's vibrating at a certain rate. I mean, here in the physical world, physicists would take it and they'd plug it into a machine. They say, well, it's vibrating at such and such a rate, and it's got this kind of an arc to it,
But
and all that
when
kind of
you get
stuff.
beyond vibration, back up to singularity, you just see everything that is.
Do you just see it, or do you experience it?
You just know it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that means. And they may not be able to explain it to me. I don't know.
I mean, this I think this would be it'd be great to hear what the stream has to say to you about it.
Yeah.
But when I've asked similar questions of the guides and I've heard questions of a similar nature asked, it's like you're asking us to talk about separation when we just are.
Yeah, that's where it's not just words, concepts become a challenge.
Separating the raindrops that are already in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But that raindrop was a different type of raindrop, but they're all raindrops. It's just H2O at the end of the day. It's just energy. That differentiation, that separation, that pocketing off in boxes is a human perspective.
Well, it's also an individual perspective.
But there's no individuality when you get beyond time. It's oneness.
Is there? I'm not 100% sure. I want to ask about that too.
Okay, well, we could even play that a little bit now in like a prelude to the stream conversation. We're talking about separation, like individuality requires separation.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I honestly don't think so. I think that individuality occurs regardless of whether you're connected. In fact, I think the best kind of individuality happens when you're connected.
So what is individuality then?
To differentiate is not to be disconnected. It's simply it's kind of like a mountain range. Mm-hmm. If you have a mountain range, you have various mountains. It's all the same range. Mm-hmm. They're all connected to each other, but you can see discrete mountains. Are they separated from each other? No, they're part of the same range, but you can still see them as different mountains. They each have different shapes. They each have different stuff going on.
But does the mountain see itself as separate mountains, or just a mountain range?
I wouldn't want to speak for the mountain. I've learned a long time ago, you don't speak for non-physical entities.
I'd say definitely speak to the mountain then. Because it's even the thing of we, I am that I am. Because I'm a firm believer that some of the scripturally referred to people were channeling. Okay. People like Moses and stuff, I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. Or they were on some pretty good acid.
Are you saying that there were drug dealers in biblical times? Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe they grew it themselves. Maybe they were pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, well, no wonder the Bible's so messed up. Okay.
Or so eclectically beautiful.
Yeah, either way, right?
Yeah.
But I seriously do believe that individuality and collective connectedness are not exclusive of each other. And I can't honestly say I understand exactly how that works, but by the same token, I don't really see where there's a conflict. To me, they're just two aspects of the same thing.
I mean, you can't have conflict in the space of allness, for me.
Yeah.
Like if you're here, it's like punching yourself in the face. I'm going to fight me. Ah. The ludicrous, like, hate. Like, I hate you because you like people of the same gender, or you've got that level of skin toning, so therefore I hate you. Ah, it's like from the zoom out. It's like, but you're all energy. I
Yeah,
don't, I
right.
don't, I don't, I don't get it. It's just energy. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
We'll
there's
see
another,
what
and
this.
I have no idea how to ask this question. I don't have that's the part of the problem is finding words because words are limited compared to these concepts. But I'd love to be able to understand what it's like. And I'm sure I will understand this at one point because I'll pass on. I'll move on to the other world and I'll know it directly. But it's also kind of fun to kind of envision it from this side, from the physical side. What's it like over there? Within my limited understanding, can I grasp any of what's going on over there?
But we are. I mean, I am that I am. I think that framing of I am that I am. It's like everything. Everything is happening.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a good clue right there.
Yeah, that's what I. We'll see what they say. For me, it's well, if it just is, it just is. How do you choose to be? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, good luck with that one then, mate. So,
Yeah, there are lots of rabbit holes we can go down. That's for sure.
so many rabbit holes. So many rabbits.
So little time.
Rabbit race.
But that's just on the non-spiritual side. Also on the physical side, I mean, there's all the cool stuff that we talk about in LOA circles, right? Attracting stuff into your life, and, dealing with blocks and so forth. They made a very quick reference on Tuesday to their toolkit that they give to people. And we didn't have any time to go into it, but there was a piece of me gnawing at like my left arm saying, come on, ask him about the toolkit. This sounds great.
I mean, the cool thing about David, one of the things I love about him too, is like, he doesn't hide his toolkits. If you just listen to the podcast and join his Facebook group, he's going to share the tools with you. Come on a summit. He's going to share the tools. When you join the boot camp, it's just that you get to be hands-on, taken through those tools personally, and then you get the coaching and you get the community and the accountability. But the tools, they're there. So I think it's pretty cool.
I'm sure it all comes out. It all comes out over time. But boy, it's just the possibility of being able to inquire about anything. I mean, you saw how I reacted when I first had the opportunity. I went blank, but after that, it's almost like an endless stream of questions and comments. And that's the other thing. I want to go beyond questions. I mean, that's the thing. We treat these people as gurus, so we will ask them guru-ish questions, but why not just have a conversation and talk about stuff? That to me is even more interesting. I like it. One of the things I like doing a podcast for is getting to know my co-hosts and getting to know guests, just finding out who they are. Well, damn, why not do the same thing with non-physicals? I mean, if I want to get to know somebody, there's somebody to get to know, right? Because it's a different kind of person. There's a different kind of dude there. I mean, that's
a
fun.
brand new experience.
It is. It is a grand experience. I love getting to know people, and that's just another kind of person to get to know. One of the reasons I want to learn more about connecting internally is so that I can learn to have conversations with non-human people. I don't know how else to describe that. And I include everything in that. Animals, obviously. I have pets, so that's the first place to go. But plants, rocks, trees.
So Walt Doolittle?
Kinda, sort of, yeah. I want to talk to the animals, but I want to hear what the animals have to say. It's not so much that I want to talk to them. I want to hear them. I want to listen to them because they got something to tell me. I want to know what the rocks have to tell me. Native Americans. I know, Jeffrey, that's not the right term, but screw it.
Say that again?
Native Americans, according to Jeffrey, is not the right term. There's another term, and I can't remember what it is.
What's that?
I don't know. There's something politically correct, whatever it is. But the point is, somebody who was part of the tribes that were here before the Europeans came to this continent. Okay, we'll just kind of generically draw it that way. There's a lot of stuff in many of those tribes about animals as guides. Okay, well, that means there's some experience that went along with that. That they didn't just dreamed that out of thin air. There was something that led them to say, well, a wolf means this and a hawk means that, and so on and so forth. Well, I'd like to experience some of that. Not that I want to go out into the desert and live there a lot. I just want to have like a conversation with a hawk. Yeah. I just want to have that little chat. You know, that's what I do here on the podcast. So I want to have chats with all kinds of things. Can you imagine having a chat with what we here in the physical world would call an ET? An extraterrestrial. You know,
that's another conversation. But
well, they're all other conversations. What are you talking about?
That's been checked off. That's been checked off on my list.
Oh, it has been. You've had your ET conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know where they were from?
It's happened a couple of times. No. But I've never really been that fussed about where extraterrestrials are from. Because we're all extraterrestrial at the end of the day. We're not native to Earth. Humans aren't anyway. But I mean, a lot of people get caught up in that. Oh, yes, I am starseed of the planet Zyborg. All right. Cool. But I mean, part of the early days of my esoteric learning was around extraterrestrial contact and the non-Earth origins of humans.
Ah.
Yeah, there was like a line in The Matrix where Agent Smith starts talking about the fact that humans are like locusts, like they just move from one. They don't live in harmony with the ecology of the Earth, which everything in nature does, but humans don't. For me, it's part and parcel of the fact that we're not natively Earthlings.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually question the premise. I'm not sure that it's true that we are out of harmony with nature. I understand what arguments people make to back that claim, but I'm not so sure it's true.
I mean, there's exceptions to the rules, but as a general principle, humans F shit up when it comes to being like civilization is getting deeper and deeper out of harmony with, like, as a general principle, not an individual idea. As a general principle, humans in mass don't really add to nature. We take away from it. I mean, people have the whole vegan argument.
And it's a perspective a lot of people have, and I respect the fact that they have the perspective. I just don't share it.
I mean, again, I'm not saying that everybody. I'm saying as a general rule of thumb, look at civilized society. Civilized society pollutes the oceans, pollutes the skies, cuts down the trees, indiscriminately kills the animals, not for food, which I think why vegans end up trying to have this whole argument that we're not supposed to eat animals, but there's a food chain.
Indeed, is a food chain, yes. And
I've checked my DNA. I've checked my DNA, and you can preach your gospel of vegan as much as you want. My DNA says that vegan is not good for me. So I've tried it and I felt like crap. So the numbers don't lie. But you put a plant anywhere and it seeks to find the gaps and move in harmony with what's going on there. You know, you put an animal even in a cage and it seeks to create a harmony with the cage. Even if it seeks to escape, it still finds an equilibrium with it. Just look at the natural.
I think it's perspective. I mean, because when I think about the same things that you're describing, I think of them differently. Okay. I literally think of them in terms of what you see as working against nature. I see as a new way of adapting to and indeed helping to influence nature. I see, and I'm not saying I like all of it. Don't get me wrong.
You need to walk me through that with plastic in the ocean. I don't. Yeah, hello, Mr. Ocean. I'm going to enhance you with some plastic. Don't worry, it's for your own benefit. I think it's good.
I can't honestly say that I understand how it all is going to play out in ways that I like. Like plastic in the ocean, I definitely do not like plastic in the ocean. And yet, I also know they say this too will pass. I think that understates it. This too will transform into something cool. I just don't know what it is.
So your contention is that what some people might see as the destruction of nature is actually aiding its evolution just in a way that we don't understand yet.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Yeah. I mean,
that's an expansive
things
viewpoint.
Work out. I mean, we go through a lot of crap to get there, but things work out. That's what that faraway perspective tells us. It all works out.
Yeah, I mean, but I suppose I'll give you an example. Does this example work? Let me see if this works. Okay. So I slap you. I had no reason to slap you. Wait. I had no reason to slap you.
Okay.
I was just being mean and slapped you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can take that slap and use it to be a better version of yourself, maybe learn some lessons from it. But that doesn't change the fact that it was nasty of me to slap you.
Sure.
That just means that you have the capacity to transcend the slap and learn and grow from it.
Yep.
The slap is still a nasty thing to do.
Or I could descend. I could fight back. I could slap you back.
Exactly. Whichever way. So for me, when I look at your position and I match it against what I see in nature, is that nature, being nature, will always win. At the end of the day, nature will outlast humanity and will win.
Mm-hmm.
Species will die, yes, as they are dying. Species will mutate, yes, as they are mutating. There'll be reconstitutions of the construct of what nature is in what places. Nature will win. It's always going to win. But that doesn't change the fact that we've been slapping nature and being very mean about it. That's where I see the bridge between what we're saying. I agree with you. Everything's going to work out. I'm just saying it's working out because nature is at a higher level of consciousness than us, and will always seek the expansive, positive, progressive way to deal with what we present it with, and we'll always come up with a solution. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we've given it a problem to have to solve.
And I think ultimately, in the long run, we ultimately also try to find that high way out. I don't think any of us really like staying in low vibe forever. I think we ultimately climb our way out one way or another. Even the most horrid among us, the ones that we find to be most distasteful, the Hitlers, they still, interesting thing. I don't remember who this was who told me this. Somebody who had some sort of psychic connection passed along to me that they had searched the non-physical universe high and low and could find no sign of the remains of Hitler. Whoever was Hitler had that piece had just disappeared from the records. The Akashic records, it wasn't there anymore. It was gone. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but to me, that tells me at least some kind of evolution happened. I just don't know what kind. I don't know what form it took, but something changed. Something shifted. Somethinged. What is it? I don't know. I have no idea. But something happened there.
Or they just didn't find it.
Or they didn't find it, I suppose. but if you're non-physical and you can know and see everything, how can you miss it?
Well, then you're saying that there's something that is that wasn't, but everything that is, everything that ever was, is.
And I kind of chalk that up to the fact that my minimal human faculty has some pretty minimal limits on. I just can't grok it. I can't get there. I got to wait till after I leave the body before I'll have some idea what that's all about.
I'm with you. I mean, I always come down to the basics of universal construction, which is energy is, and everything that ever was or ever could be is in the now. Mm-hmm. So Hitler doesn't get a pass on that. The energy that we understood and interpreted as Hitler is there, floating around.
But is it possible for it to have transformed?
Stream actually said something about this, or was it Paul? I think it was the Stream, in relation to speaking to people that have crossed over and how that works.
Okay.
Because there is a transformation, but there's still an essence that still remains and can be engaged with. Otherwise, when people return to source, they'd be returned to source and there'd be nothing to speak to. So how could you speak to people on the other side? Because they've returned back to oneness and to source. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing to speak to. Mm-hmm. So there's an aspect that still remains that there's an engagement with. So But I think I think that that aspect of thought form, that the collective agreement of recognition of that entity when it was alive, creates an essence of, and that's like when you look at the Day of the Dead, even here in Mexico, where they remember the person, and they have this whole thing of remembering the person, like that whole film Coco is all about. Yeah. I think that's creating collective acknowledgement to create a thought form that maintains the essence of that person they can engage with and communicate and learn from. Sure. That's what I think it is. But that's me, again, from my limited perspective. But I don't quite get, and I'm always ready to be educated on gaps in my knowing and understanding, but sure. I don't get how it's just not there anymore, because then people still talk about and refer to that thought form, so it still has life.
The best I can give you an answer on, and I don't have a clear answer either, but the best answer I can give is if you have, let's say I need a real world example I can play with. If you have a favorite sweater, okay, and over time the sweater gets kind of ratty and holey and so forth, and it gets to the point where you throw it out. Okay, that's what we normally do with sweaters that wear out. But what if you could take that ratty, holey sweater and put it through a machine and it comes out like a brand new sweater again? Well, you probably keep the sweater. Not like, well, this is why I had the sweater in the first place. I like this sweater. I don't like it when it was the old ratty one, but now I like the new, improved, restored to its original condition one. Well, I guess on one level, that sweater still has the ratty holiness to it. Can you detect it?
Yeah, but that's not the way the universe works. The universe works that we would create a new sweater and the old sweater would be there and we'd use the new sweater. And
I'm not so sure that's true.
But then we're saying that all things aren't. Everything.
Well, are we saying that they aren't, or are we saying that they're transmutable?
But transmutable doesn't mean that it wasn't there before. It's still, and to say it was there before, it's there in the future, then we're talking about time, which is an illusion. Everything just is.
Yeah, we're kind of limited because all of our language is about time, so it kind of
it comes down to time.
Time conversation.
Yeah. So every single variation of that, what happens in the universe is every single variation of that sweater is. We just happen to connect with the variation of time where the sweater that we want is, but the other sweater's still there. It's just in another dimension of the experience of the one that we've stepped into with the new sweater.
So with the new sweater, as we're calling it, we can still see the old sweater, being a...
Well, it's not that we can see it, it's that the old sweater still exists as a quantum potential there in the field of infinite nows. It's just that here and now we've stepped into the time. And this is what timeline jumping is. Timeline jumping we don't create anything new. We don't create new nows. Of the infinite number of nows, every single next moment beyond now that could ever be, has ever been, and could ever be conceived by either of us or anyone who's ever going to listen to this already exists. We're not creating it. Based on who we are, we connect to it and call it into us, and then we experience it.
Yeah, that's the Neville Goddard concept. Yeah.
So this is quantum physics too. So we connect to the next now based on our expectation about which now we're going to have, and that expectation spoken through who we're being. But that doesn't mean that the other now disappeared. The other now is still there. We're not connecting to that one. We're consciously experiencing this one, but it doesn't mean that the other one's gone.
So here's a question that's crazy to ask with 2 minutes left in the podcast because there's not enough time to discuss it. But if what you're saying is true, if nothing is ever created, then what's creation?
Creation is connecting to an expression of a reality that already exists.
So there is never anything that is truly created, so there really is no creation.
There isn't any creation. We connect to a possibility. We connect to a potential outcome, potential.
And I don't see it that way.
Quantum physics demonstrated that to be true.
Well, depending on how you express quantum physics.
Well, we can go to ancient wisdom. We can go to whatever. The fact of the matter is everything just is. Everything just is as quantum potentials. And then we connect to the next quantum. We connect to the next quantum potential that lines with who we are. Yeah, that's what our life is. Our life is a succession of quantum potentials that we connect to based on who we are. Not what we say or what we command or what we say we want. It's who we are.
See, I knew it was a mistake to try to bring this up with 2 minutes left. There's no way I can answer that quickly enough. It's not possible.
But this is the crazy thing. This is where quantum potential steps into a different level of conversation. It doesn't matter what I say. What matters is what you believe.
Sure.
Because what you believe at your soul level is how reality is going to wrap around you. So if you decide to reject all of this and you have your version of how you see manifestation to happen, if you truly believe in it to the level that it becomes a part of who you are, that's how you're going to manifest.
And I think I actually don't reject all of that. I just see it differently. I think of it differently is all. I think I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing. And
how you think about it is what's going to dictate how you create from it.
That's true. That's exactly true. Yeah. That's a good stopping place. That way we can have like a convergence of dialogue and be ready for the next show.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the replay with the stream tomorrow.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be great. And anyone who can tune into the live stream, I know, guys, Jeffrey's been posting about a storm here, and I've kind of ignored him. But
sorry, Jeffrey.
Yeah, because he put some good stuff out here. But I promise you that if you come to the show tomorrow, I'm going to be going to the live stream to get questions to ask the stream. So that's the time to be there. Okay. So, and Daniel will be, checking in later to make sure that you asked your questions.
You better ask your question, Jeffrey. I know where you are on Facebook.
I love it. By the way, if you're not yet subscribed, this is why you want to subscribe. Go to loatoday.net, become a subscriber, do the same thing at YouTube. Join us on YouTube. Watch what we're doing there too. And Daniel, thanks for bringing David. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for your perspective. Thanks for
having me. It's always a pleasure to come and play.
And thanks for being ready to come back next Tuesday. And hopefully Alex will be able to join us too. I hope she's feeling better.
Yeah, hopefully Alex.
Yeah, we miss her.
So, I'll send her a text.
Absolutely. So thank you, guys. Thank you, live streamers. Thank you, podcast listeners. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.